very good things in your swing. Glad the shallowing out has seemed to help. I want to talk a little bit about wrist conditions though, and how that affects the club face and how it actually can help you shallow out the club. So when you take the club back, you do a pretty good job turning, tilting, changing the flex of your knees. If anything though, that club tends to be very, very open swinging down. So at this point, we would probably want the club face to be a little bit more closed. It would match, so the leading edge of the club would be matching your spine angle at this point is a common basically guideline for you to use in assessing your swing. And where I find it, or where I can see you find it difficult to have that consistency, is if you're doing the shallowing move and you leave that club face open, you're going to have to make a lot of compensations to close the face, whether that be stalling your body, letting the club release early or earlier than you would want to. To be honest with you, I actually think that both of the swings were pretty good that you included. So I think that if you had the club face a little bit more square at the top, your wrist conditions would also allow for that club to transition a little bit shallower without you having to force it. So doing that magic move. So I think some better wrist conditions at the top is going to control the club face. It's actually going to get the club a little bit shallower earlier. So you're going to have all the rotational freedom where you're just basically rotating to hit the golf ball. So anything that you do with your wrist, so when we grip the club, our palms are facing each other. So anything that I do with my left hand, I have to do the opposite with my right. In this case, I'm going to have to ask you to flex your left wrist, so bowing, DJ, right? Super flex left wrist at the top. Okay, that's what we're going to need you to do, but we also need you to bend your right wrist back as well. So the difference that you're going to see if you're doing this correctly is when you swing back, this club tends to be a tad across the line, club face open, and a little bit steep. So steep in transition, you shallow it out. The club, you're not going to have a lot of hinge either, so the club's going to be very high in the air. If you're doing this correctly, when you swing back, you're going to bow your left wrist, but bend your right wrist back. If you go to the top position and you bend your right wrist back, the club's going to be in a little bit more advantageous position. This right wrist is going to be bent back. The club face is going to be a little bit more square. So from here, when you start swinging down, it's already going to be shallow. Now you just have to rotate to hit it. Where if you have the club face open and this club a little bit across the line, when it starts to shallow, it's going to stay open, and then you're going to have to start to make some compensations to square the club face at the ball. So again, if you're doing this correctly, when you swing back, your right wrist is bending back, flexing your left wrist a la DJ. The club's going to be in a better position. The club face is going to be more square. It's going to want to naturally shallow out the better you keep your right wrist bent back. And the club face is also going to be square, so you can just rotate to hit the ball.